Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome. A very happy Tuesday, and welcome to the fourth session of our Day One and Beyond program, which takes you through a series of topics and activities related to building out on Oracle Cloud. These events are hosted on Cloud Customer Connect, which is our Oracle community forum for customers and end users. My name is Renu Bhatt. I'm a TPM with the Custom Enablement team, and today I'm joined by Stephen Lemmy, Senior Principal Product Manager, and David Leroy, Senior Director of Product Management here at Oracle. Both our presenters are experts in observability and management, and we're really lucky to have them with us today. With that, I'll hand it over to Stephen.
Thank you, Renu. Let's go ahead and get right to the content.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. My name is David Leroy. I'm in product management. I'm joined with Steve Lemmy, who both focus on our observability and management solution. And so today we're going to cover, a wide range of topics within the observability space. And we hope that you'll find it helpful and useful and pertinent to your job, your role, and your challenges. And please, as mentioned in the beginning, please feel free to ask questions through the Q&A app as we go through the presentation. We'll try to address all of these. And if we have time, we'll try to give you a quick demo at the end. So let me get started. So, Steve, the polls were really interesting of multiple clouds. I saw users of on-premise and lots of different tools. So, let me kind of set the environment. What we see today, when I talk to our customers, we see a real mix of both on-premises and different cloud solutions. And, I think it's a nice idea that a lot of people have, that people are all cloud, and a few people might be cloud only. But the reality is most people have an existing footprint, legacy applications, reasons, financial apps, whatever it may be, to continue to live in the on-premises space, but also then look at new projects, moving new initiatives and workloads to the cloud. And so, in the end, we see a lot of customers that have to deal with on-prem, cloud, and then applications that span both. So when we look at what analysts are saying, right, what they hear from customers is, that we see the challenge, right? We just kind of laid down the mixed IT, the hybrid environments that people are dealing with today, but it can be very frustrating for large enterprises and small ones to be able to use their existing monitoring tools, even though they've invested in it, even though they have full-time employees tweaking them, managing them. It doesn't mean those tools were built to handle these complex environments, these hybrid environments, or even all of the modern kind of cloud technology.
Dave, that's a really good point. Is just because I still have my old Volkswagen Bug, it doesn't mean I can put that new GPS computer system into it. It really wasn't designed for it. And as our polls displayed, people have a variety of different things. And in fact, even the terminology monitoring in self is a little bit misunderstood. So we'll talk and dive into this a little bit more in detail.
And I think just the really quick last point is, for decades, right, we've seen a lot of people reacting to challenges and problems in their environment, and it's due to customers calling support or customers letting them know. And that's just, it's a challenge to run a business like that, to be on the reactive side rather than getting ahead of before your customers are impacted. Okay, so the other interesting observation on this is to look at how the tools are focused and how they have challenges being able to look at a unified, comprehensive view.
I think the other thing we're starting to see is history repeat itself. So for those who have been in the industry a little bit longer, the IT operations focus on monitoring had a number of challenges where kind of each person had their own piece of insight and not necessarily an integrated view. And, that resulted in all sorts of fingerprint pointing and all sorts of, calls and escalations. But here we kind of go again with observability following the same path. We have folks that are using these different clouds, and they're using their particular tool for their particular role. But again, these observability tools not being integrated and not sharing common data. So that's one of the key things. We don't want folks to make the same mistake again.
And when you're in a crisis mode and you have a down application, when it comes time to quickly debug that, you do need to go pull data from all those different tools, right? Because you don't have that comprehensive view. So this is a real challenge that we see a lot of people dealing with today. For those of you, so the poll of who was familiar with Oracle Enterprise Manager, who is familiar with observability and management, and or both, is very interesting to see, because Enterprise Manager is Oracle's kind of flagship on-premises traditional red management tool, right? That manages all of the Oracle stack very comprehensively and has very deep diagnostics and capabilities against databases and Oracle applications, and everything running within Oracle. So Enterprise Manager has been around for a long time. Enterprise Manager continues to be released. We do monthly release updates to bring out new functionality, bug fixes, and so on. And, we in 13.5 release of Enterprise Manager, we've released over 10 RUs already, and each one of these bringing new capabilities to the product. And so not only are we in a modern agile development release cycle for Enterprise Manager, the development team is continuing to invest in new capabilities. And we're currently in development of the next major release of Enterprise Manager beyond 13.5. So that's for a lot of customers that are already running Enterprise Manager. You're familiar with it. We also have observability and management. And observability and management as a solution is a set of different services, which we'll kind of break down here in a minute. But this is our approach to very modern environments, modern applications, being able to take advantage of all the technology that you can do in the cloud, with cloud services, creating a SaaS application that you use to manage your environments. And so the observability and management is a complete set of services that are integrated on a single platform to work together. We have lots of new capabilities. It's natively integrated with OCI, so you get all of the OCI is essentially your bigger platform, so you get to take advantage of all the security and nuances there, as well as a heterogeneous approach to managing different data types in your stack. And of course, observability and management is a cloud SaaS type service, but it can manage all of your on-prem, it can manage your cloud, and it can manage outside of OCI into multi-cloud.
So that leads us, Dave, always to that obvious question: which one do I use? Well, that's really left up to our customers based upon their business needs and role. Starting there at the bottom, we've had the traditional enterprise manager solution for those customers that, typically have been heavily invested in Oracle product technologies. Essentially any Oracle customer using an Oracle product on current support can use the base enterprise manager for no charge. And then there's the additional packs that can be added to provide additional capabilities. Now we've got these cloud-based services that are natively integrated into OCI, and they can be invoked individually and in a subscription model. And so they can be used to, fill the gaps in particular areas where you may not have a solution that's working for you, or maybe there's an older tool that you're looking for replacement. And rest assured, there's actually integration between the two that provides you even more functionality. And that is something that is very unique from Oracle as a cloud vendor. The Oracle database is the most instrumented database in the world. And if you don't take my word for it, take a look at one of those data dictionary posters hanging on a wall somewhere. All that telemetry information is collected typically natively by Enterprise Manager on premises. The only challenge is keeping, the amount of that data DBAs would love to keep it for 6 months or 12 or even 2 years to do things such as capacity planning, budgeting, etc. Well, we've integrated the two together. And Dave, if you go ahead and show that next slide there.
Well, real quick, before we do that, let me connect the dots, right? So for existing customers of Oracle Enterprise Manager, you can continue to use Oracle Enterprise Manager. And as I said, we're continuing to invest and deploy new capabilities, and it can manage your on-premises and OCI. Okay. Now, if you don't have Enterprise Manager, you don't know what I'm talking about, that's okay too, because the observability and management services can be your full observability and management solution. And so if you're new or you don't have that existing investment, then these services are completely self-sufficient to be managing your observability environment, both on OCI, on premises, and in additional clouds. So now I'll take your cue to move to the next slide, because how do we manage these together? Is there an advantage, right? And so this is where our development team and product management have really built in a strategy to be able to look at what is the existing capabilities that you do with Enterprise Manager, and then what are net new capabilities that we get out of observability and management, being able to take advantage of machine learning and AI in the cloud that Enterprise Manager doesn't have access to. So this is an opportunity to be able to take that rich repository set of data that EM has and utilize that and move that into some of the cloud services to be able to get vision into logging analytics. And Steve, you were just mentioning capacity planning and some of these harder exercises to do.
Forgive me, Dave. Being a DBA in the past, I got really excited about this, but we have a number of people on this call, as our polls reflected, that are doing cloud native development. So I want to make sure it's clear you do not need Enterprise Manager to use any of these capabilities, except in the case of if you want to harvest that data from your existing repositories, if someone in your company is already using Enterprise Manager.
Yep. Great. So that brings us into diving into the OCI observability and management. And one of the recent events, which we hosted at the beginning of the year in January, was a showcase on the latest innovations for observability and management. Roughly, it's been about 2.5 years since the observability and management platform was announced. And so we've had many new capabilities, solution focus, and we'll talk about some of that in today's session, but it's a really good short synopsis of all the capabilities if you wanted to go back and watch it with some live demos. So Steve, when we talk about how do we get there with observability and management, right? We look at what are the design principles. And this is taking a lot of many years of experience in knowing what the challenges our customers run into, and how can we best handle them. So we take kind of a complete approach, looking at the entire stack, right? We don't want to have one strong service just for one layer of the stack and make that our business. We're really focusing on individual services that can look at the entire stack, but are fully integrated and built to work together. And this brings down those monitoring silos that you were talking about in the beginning, that can be a challenge for customers and environments to be able to pull together what's happening in their environment. The other thing is looking at building an open system based on open standards. And this allows us to bring in and share data from your observability platform. So you can look at everything from, hybrid multi-cloud, being able to look at all of these environments, bring in telemetry, bring in different metrics. And through these open standards, through CNCF, open tracing, open telemetry, Fluentd, you can bring in structured, non-structured data from all these different sources into your observability purview. And then lastly, looking at who, Oracle being its own customer, right? We look at being able to scale and handle large enterprises, as well as being able to handle very industry specific focused industries. And we also spend the time to build and apply the specific machine learning algorithms that are built around our business, right? We know monitoring and metric data. We know what one data set of data is going to look like. We know the seasonalities. We can build all that in. So you don't have to be a data scientist. You can be a citizen data scientist, take advantage of this. And this is something that we can deliver in the cloud. So very comprehensive scenarios, as well as understanding a deep knowledge of the Oracle stack. So this brings me into kind of how to visualize what the observability and management platform is. And there's a lot of colors and, and items to take in here. So let me take a quick pass at this. Please, again, feel free to ask questions over Q&A. But when we look at the observability and management platform, we have the foundation running on Oracle Cloud infrastructure, right? So your basic compute, storage, network, security, and so on. Within this, we have a foundational layer of services, which are critical to be running the observability platform. So understanding all the different metrics and having a store for all your monitoring data, logs, looking at the unstructured data, being able to notify and run alarms on that, being able to look at insights within and collect lots of data in the repository or collect a lot of data from your environment. And then we have advanced services. Now, each one of these advanced services can be run as a single standalone service. If I was not an Oracle customer and I wanted to be able to monitor my cloud native app, I can use application performance monitoring to be able to do that. Now, am I going to get more advantage of being able to use that with, say, logging analytics to bring in the vision of my logs around my application? Absolutely. So we have application performance monitoring. We have stack monitoring, which looks at which helps discover the stack that supports the application, all the unstructured log data from all the different components, depending whether you have, large, more traditional apps or you have cloud native apps, looking at the database component of these pieces and having deep database performance, diagnostics, tuning, all of those insights. And then lastly, capacity planning and SQL Insights is, this alone could be, any one of these services could be a full dedicated session. But this looks at 25 months of data. So you get a really good comprehensive view of your past performance to be able to make decisions going forward. And as I mentioned,
Dave?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Just real quickly, that subtitle, Unified Cloud Native Platform. I think that's really essential here because we've got folks in the poll who said, hey, I'm using these other vendor clouds. And you look here and say, hey, these are service names that are familiar in other vendors' clouds. The difference here is Oracle did the hard part up front. We did the platform. We brought essentially the OCI control plane together with all these different observability and collection mechanisms in a common data format. And as you utilize a particular service, you can then easily flow in, subscribe to another service, and continue essentially that workflow. You're not the person having to do the integration or doing extra scripting to glue those individual services together. That's already been done through essentially the cloud console and the integration of the platform here. So it's a significant differentiator because it saves significant amount of time and cost.
All right. Well, let's take one more look to set the scene, and then we can dive into some of the solution areas that we provide. But we see yet another challenge from Constellation Research talking about observability and management silos, right? And how challenging it is to look across these silos, and how we're taking an approach that is refreshingly open to look at these different silos to get complete visibility. So, Steve, why don't you kick us off with the first one? Since we saw in the poll, we literally had a lot of people focusing on cloud native apps. I think this is a good place to start.
Yeah, and again, because of the integration that we've got in O&M, we have essentially 4 kind of solution focus areas. And so let's quickly review what those are and how you might apply observability management in your role or business. If you're one of those people who's a developer, you're in DevOps or AI ops, you certainly are looking for something to help you with, the databases or components for the applications. In fact, that's always a joke I've always had is, who runs a database just for the sake of running a database? It's typically there as a repository for the data for something, for an application. And so there are key things within the site reliability engineering role and capabilities sought after. And so that's what we've done essentially here in our first solution area, focusing on cloud native apps, distributed tracing and diagnostics, integrating the log analytics in context to that, not having it something separately. I know that's been a big thing in the past where people had acquired tools that just would do, log analysis, but it's more important to see them in the context of what the application is actually doing. Obviously, these applications are critical to business, and so the customers using them, you want to understand what is that experience, because if they're not having a positive experience, then they're essentially going to be, leaving your company's offerings, or they're going to be complaining, and then of course the help desk is going to be getting a bunch of phone calls. And so you want to have that observability throughout the application, not only the back end, but also the front end where the customers are interacting. So again, in this first area of solution focus, that's what we're looking at, observability for cloud native apps. Now, if we move on to our second area of focus, we most certainly have customers who have, again, invested in our own applications here at Oracle. These are packaged applications such as eBusiness Suite or PeopleSoft or JDE, and the list continues. And so for those customers that are now doing their modernization, bringing those, for instance, onto OCI, and maybe they're putting it onto, IaaS or PaaS, they are looking for a modern way to have those managed. And they're also leaving the realm of some of these, legacy platforms that are no longer supported. So what we've provided is the capability that as you move on to OCI, using our APM solution with stack monitoring, it's going out and it's doing a discovery of all the critical components of that application. And then it's instantiating and starting up monitoring. And again, this is helping automate the process, and you don't have to be the person doing all the different pieces yourself and stitching it together with scripts or having to have this hodgepodge of tools, creating some of those challenges that we saw previously.
Yeah, Steve, we see really, customers have very complex EBS environments. So you're telling me that the approach that we take here is being able to discover and understand, because the topology aware discovery is really kind of a one-click, being able to see the entire stack. And not only that, then dive into the nuances of the EBS business running within the application, right?
Yeah, there's one other advantage here. Since we actually produce this application and its components, we have more insight, of course, than any other vendor. And in most cases, customers not using an Oracle solution, those technologies are kind of guessing at what's happening. And, it's relying upon you to fill in the gaps with subject matter expertise or, having to do things extra times. And so, yeah, if you're working with one of the Oracle applications, you certainly want to be looking at observability and management in the future as well.
Right. And so this is like being able to dig down into forms, being able to look at over 300 business checks. So there's a lot of built-in capability that people get to take advantage of here.
Let's go to the third focus area, and let's talk about a little bit more about AI ops and applied observability. So not only is there observability, but now the application of it. And so this is where AI ops comes in. And AI ops is not unique just to development. It's also for IT operations. There is just so much telemetry and data flowing in. It's impossible for humans to, stay on top of it. And now we've taken AI and machine learning technology, and we've applied it specific to this area to do things such as, pattern recognition or clustering or link analysis. More importantly, what's the root cause of something happening? Bringing together all of this disparate information and helping surface that to the particular individual in their role, whether you're in development or on the operational side. People have been trying to do this on premise for years, but typically they just didn't have the ability or budget to build these, big data farms on their premises to process all the data. Again, this is another focus area for us within observability and management.
And Steve, I thought it was interesting when we talked about the roles. I didn't see anybody specific to the AI ops role, but it doesn't mean that AI ops is not intertwined with many of these other roles.
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about the last area of focus here before we talk about the individual services.
Yeah, certainly we have been, a leader in data management ever since the start of the company, Dave. And we essentially have the top two databases in the world. We've got the Oracle database and MySQL database as part of that equation. And, our customers don't necessarily want to have to use different tools, no matter where those, MySQL databases or Oracle databases lie. On premise, in the cloud, or across vendors' cloud. So again, this is another key focus area for us so that they can be having observability of their databases no matter where they are, and be able to go deeply into them to be able to get the information most pertinent to the role. Obviously, database administrators are looking for some very key things, while developers are looking for others. And so again, in how we present the information in the interfaces also benefits the particular role and user. We're obviously cherry picking a lot of the favorite things that people have been using, for instance, from the enterprise manager products, and putting them into the cloud now for use as well.
Yeah, and you're going to continue to see, we roll out new capabilities, as much as biweekly for these different services in a seamless fashion. So you're going to continue to see more features and functionality and support roll out. Okay, so Steve, I appreciate you giving us kind of an overview of kind of the different pillars and focus areas of how we look at cloud native, packaged apps, AI ops, and the database management arena. So I think what would be helpful is for us to kind of, I think I hear the word observability used as kind of this panacea, right? And
there's an elephant in the room at this point. Isn't observability monitoring? We hear that quite often, and so this is a great point of discussion before we go further in our conversation. So people, as we identified early on, already have this investment in all sorts of tools, and typically they're monitoring tools. And what those monitoring tools typically do is they inform you that something has happened. Something bad has happened, and now you take action. I use the example, in healthcare, a patient's on an EKG machine. Unfortunately, they flatlined, and now the physicians are trying to bring you back to life. Something bad has happened, and we're now trying to revive and get things back to normal. Observability is actually based on having insight and ability to watch for things as they're happening. So think about going into the physician's office for your annual physical. They're checking your cholesterol level. They're collecting information on your blood pressure. You're being proactively being watched and observed to prevent you from having that life-ending event. So there is a difference, and monitoring is at the top of kind of, what is happening that most people are doing today. It's the observability portion that is now what people are striving for in their applications, especially in the cloud native development and the site reliability engineers. And so it's a combination of these two. And we always like to discuss this point because there are some vendors that say one is the other. but we recognize it as two distinct things, and it fits within our strategy. No matter whether you're looking to augment your monitoring with observability or do comprehensive observability, starting from your cloud applications.
Well, great. Thank you, Steve. I think that helps, qualify the discussion, because as I said, I hear observability kind of means everything to everybody. And so it's
definitely a buzzword for some folks, Dave.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so let me quickly summarize kind of where we're going to go next. We've talked about the different areas of focus. We've set up the discussion of monitoring versus observability, and we've talked about the different services and the platform for observability and management. So what we have, and we're going to look at next, are some of the individual services. Now, as I said, each of these services can be an entire solution that you use against your environment. We have lots of customers that use one of these individual services because it meets their needs for the challenges that they have. We have lots of customers that use multiple services together because as these are built together by the same team and integrated on the observability management platform, you get better results from using more of these services together. So we'll go through APM, logging analytics, database management, stack monitoring, but just thinking about all the different types of data, traces, telemetry, logs, and metrics that you bring in through these services, this is where operations insights will be able to help you with kind of a long-term look at understanding this data and predicting kind of future use of where you need to go in your environment.
And Dave, just as you mentioned earlier, we could spend a session on just each one of these individually, and we're happy to do that. But for today's session, we're going to provide a quick overview.
Yeah. So I'll be quick because we could, if we don't watch ourselves, we will. So when we look at the application performance monitoring service, this is, we had a previous version of this Gen 1 in OMC APM, and we had an opportunity to even redesign this APM service to be built on a distributed tracing architecture. And so it itself is a distributed tracing tool. And so we can look at all the applications from the bleeding edge of the application all the way down into the transactions that are running against the database, the SQL statements, and being able to pinpoint problems across a wide set of layers of the application. Now, there's a few key capabilities. One is being able to do distributed tracing and understand the traces. Another one is being able to do synthetic transactions, being able to set the transactions you want to look at in the application from anywhere that you want in the world, right? So you can run these from any of the Oracle data centers. You can run them from your own environments within your firewall if you want to test those. So it gives you a big comprehensive view. You can see here in the picture where you can look at topology, you can see a geomap where all your traffic is coming from and allow you to dive down into these. I'd say the last thing here, and you'll see this as a common theme across the different services, is looking at the customizable dashboards. Our goal here is to bubble up as much useful information up front that you can that you can get all the information that you need to help make decisions. The second service here, and this is part of the application performance monitoring service, is stack monitoring. So this is something that came out last year. This is an exciting addition to the APM family because, as we talked about in the EBS context and PeopleSoft and other applications, this adds the knowledge to be able to say, what is it that it is? So let's discover, we understand what the resources are. What do those resources, how do they connect? What are the relationships? And what does monitoring look like, right? What is up versus down? What is good versus bad on performance? And start doing all of that out of box. And so this will understand the topology, help you bring together a comprehensive view, and then start to generate alarms and for performance and outages and things that you would normally need to go in and set everything yourself. And so the idea here is to give this to you as a solution. Logging analytics. We have in OCI, we have a logging tool, which works at the layer of being able to ingest and do log management for OCI and other sources. And then we can layer on top of that, we have logging analytics. And logging analytics can bring in millions and millions of lines of logs of unstructured log data and be able to analyze that and run machine learning queries against it to be able to give you really precise views of what's going on. We can take millions of lines of logs and be able to drill down into 8 potential issues. We know what outliers are out there. We can look at patterns within periods of time to see trends that's happening in the data. And so, depending on where you want to focus, logging analytics gives you a complete look at every layer. We have probably over 250 parsers, so we can bring in, of course, all the Oracle data, but then other applications, non-Oracle components, security devices, anything that you have in your environment, you can bring into logging analytics. Steve, anything you want to add as I'm moving through these quickly?
Each one of these is, again, very powerful. And at the end, we'll give some key resources where you can learn more about each of these and even try out the technology hands-on.
Yep. And then database management, right? We talked about some of the capabilities of what we could do that were new, but database management allows you to spin up a full database management service on demand and be able to understand individual databases with all the nuances of administering that database, but then also looking at it from a fleet-wide perspective. So you understand all your databases, whether they're a combination of on-prem, in the cloud, on AWS, on Azure. You can be able to see how your databases are behaving and leverage all of the performance management. And something that's just worth mentioning is since we design all these tools that we've talked about, Performance Hub is like a consistent view of the performance of the database, whether you're looking at it through other tools, logging into the database, looking at it through observability and management. So we try to make it a very common view so you're very familiar as you navigate through the different tools. This should look this won't look like a brand new tool. You'll be able to move quickly within the database, seeing very familiar screens. And then lastly, Operations Insights. Operations Insights has the ability, as I mentioned before, it's a 25-month review window. So as it collects data, we have the data store, right, that collects all this data. So it's a very inexpensive way to get large sets of data to be able to then apply capacity planning algorithms and look at in a linear fashion or your own algorithms to look at what type of capacity planning is right for your environment. We have SQL Warehouse to look at the performance of SQL and being able to look at trends over periods of time, right? So you'd be able to normally have the access to this data, but in small spurts and in small chunks of data. This allows you to really look at this over a period of time and look at systemic type issues rather than being in firefighting mode. Okay, so Steve, I think we are going to try to save a few minutes just to do a quick demo. So why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the customers and partners, and we can go from there.
Great. In fact, we had a question actually come in asking if we'd had some, partners and customers using the solutions, and the answer is most certainly yes. We've just pulled a few off of the, success site that we've got out on oracle.com. For those who at Oracle Cloud World in October, we had folks like Cognizant out there speaking to our customers about how not only as a partner they utilize it in their practice, but they actually run on Oracle technology in their business. And so that was one great example. If you're in the Asia Pacific region, you may be familiar with Kingold. And again, because they're solving those challenges of all these, different independent tools doing different things, by having a solution instead of different tools, being able to solve performance issues faster. And it goes without saying, each of these logos are typically large customers. But the one that's missing, Dave, is Oracle. We are our own largest customer. We run our business and our cloud using these particular solutions we're talking about today.
Which is one of our most challenging customers as well, right? Being able to scale to the size that we need to do to meet all those needs. Okay.
Yep, we also had partners speaking at CloudWorld, and they continue to actually go out in the user communities and present on these topic matters as well. So if you weren't able to attend CloudWorld and you're at one of your regional community events, you may be hearing from some partners talking about how they're employing O&M in their practices, as well as utilizing it themselves.
That's right. And so when we look at some recent studies, right, to kind of bring together, now that we've gone through the solutions and the services and talked about how some of the customers are using it, we're really excited about the recent Omdia finding and study that talked about and placed us as a leader in the multi-cloud observability and management space after evaluating, a lot of other solutions out there. And so I encourage you to take a look and read this. We put the link into the slides, and they'll be available as part of our resources. So Steve, I'm going to flash this up, but do we have time to do a quick demo?
Yeah, real quick. At least folks are always asking, where do these services hang out in the Oracle Cloud? So let me go ahead and share my screen real quickly, and I will show folks that. And I've got a live session running right now on their Oracle Cloud. So I'm hoping, Dave, you can see my Cloud Console.
Yep, looks good.
Great. So for those who are familiar with the Oracle Cloud Console, great. If you're not, well, this is your introduction. And so right up here from the navigational menu is where you access the observability and management services, as well as the other services available from Oracle Cloud. We simply drop down into the category observability and management. And by choosing that, we can see what the services are that Dave was just talking about and reviewing.
Steve, real quick before we get into this any further, just for everybody's benefit. So all you did is turn on OCI and log in through your normal OCI console. You didn't enable anything special. This is just the general menu here where you can drop down and see the observability and management category.
Yes, Dave, that's the beauty of a subscription-based service. I just log in and I use it. And I may be subscribed to one of these. I may be subscribed to all of these. Again, you don't have to consume them all at once. Typically, customers start with one and then they start using other ones. So in this particular quick demo, I'm just going to go over to our logging analytics product, over to its home. And you're going to find that out of the box, it comes with some of these pre-packaged dashboards. And that's what we're typically doing for our customers, is offering some pre-packaged dashboards and, of course, the ability to customize them. So in this instance, I've just gone in, I've chosen this particular service, and maybe I want to start looking at all the logs and pulling from that information related to my VCN flow.
Right, and depending on your role, you're going to want to set your homepage based on what is most useful and what you're looking at. And so you have the ability to go in, and we're going to provide as much of this out of box as you can see, these different dashboards that you can just choose to activate and view from just being able to log in.
Yeah, again, as a developer, a cloud native developer, I may be most interested in, what's going on at the API level for my application. On the other hand, if I'm more operationally focused, or I'm trying to focus on a network issue that may be happening, the VCNs most certainly. And then always those people come around wanting to do something around security, Dave, and things such as, auditing. And so again, functional based dashboards. So why don't I turn it back over to you so you can share those resources so people can check out how to get started themselves.
Great. Yeah, so when we were talking about the customers and partners, there's general information at the oracle.com manageability page, and this is going to give you everything from customers to information about the services, to pricing and licensing. And something that I thought about, and as questions come in, Steve, is kind of, you said you can start to use any one of the individual services and add services as you go. I think it's important for folks to understand that the pricing model is based on usage. And so which service and which parts of the service that you use is the only thing that you that gets charged, and for how much you use it. And so you're not, it's just an important metric to put out there.
Yep, we had a question about that, earlier as well. There's people in the development role doing cloud native application, and they don't need, the power and, for instance, the capacity that, someone that may be, for instance, managing an enterprise application does.
That's right. So lots of good information at that level. We have lots of videos. We have our product management and development put out a lot of different videos that are both kind of introductory and high level, as well as very solution focused, to understand, how do I go in and actually address and fix this problem? We also have our blog site, which is at blogs.oracle.com/observability. If you haven't been here before, I encourage you to bookmark this and then go back when you have time. But we spend a lot of time trying to put very relevant blogs out there that are useful. We even do some joint blogs with customers and partners. And so it's a great source of information. We also, such as this webcast and others, we have the ability to, we have lots of different webinars that have been available on different topics. Steve and I kind of tried to boil the ocean today, but there are definitely focused topics that look and dive into some of these individual solutions and services. So I encourage you to take a look. We also have, and you'll find this on the main page, we also have an observability and management certification, if you're interested in that, going that route as well, that has lots and lots of relevant training on the individual services. And then lastly, Steve, tell me about Live Labs.
It's not lastly. Customers have told us it's great to see PowerPoints, but they'd actually like to try using the technology. So pretty much for every service we've discussed here, there is a lab out on Live Labs where you're able to actually go try it out. And there's some particular curated use cases. The exception is stack monitoring. We've got a live lab forthcoming for that, but you may want to start just with APM. You could go, in fact, the demo I was just giving, I literally pushed a button. I had the cloud environment in a minute, 0.5, Dave. And I was in essentially being able to start working, for instance, with the APM service from the Oracle Cloud that quickly.
And it's a good point to know, is you could run these different Live Labs scenarios on your own environment, but Oracle also provides the environments with pre-configured use cases and labs to get to be familiar, or to familiarize yourself with the different services.
The other point is, speak to your team, your Oracle representatives within your company. Bring your teams together instead of trying to solve the problems individually. Work with your account team and do an on-site workshop. That's a possibility as well for folks. So, don't try to solve things individually. It always works to, better if you're a group.
Great. Thanks, Steve. So we're approaching the top of the hour, so I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over.
Thank you again for your time today, and we'll see you all next time. Have a great day, everyone. And thanks again, David and Stephen and Catherine. Yes.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.